Welcome to Brain Strength. This series where this average fool tries to teach you a thing or two about sports psychology so that you can be the best version of you. I'm your host, RJ Lynch, with my master's in sports psychology. Let's get this thing rolling. In this episode of Brain Strength, I'm going to be focusing on the feelings of happiness, joy, and gratitude. And what I really want to dive into is how these are things that a lot of times we think about, like, oh, this is the result of doing my sport well, or this is what happens, how I feel when I win championships, when I get this or that. But in truth, we also have to find ways to feel these things prior to reaching those tops before we hit our peak, because the more we experience it during practice, the more we experience it in other parts of our life, the more likely we are to eventually hit those peaks, to get to the things that we're like chasing after. So before I get into them in depth, I really want to kind of define them and talk about the differences, because especially joy and happiness, those are two things that a lot of times people really flip-flop, think they're the same thing. And though they are close, there is enough difference to them that I do want to bring our attention to it. So first, happiness is more of that fleeting, momentary good feelings, like you bite into a nice, fresh chocolate chip cookie and you just have that light up moment, like, oh, that was so good. That's a moment of happiness. You make a shot to a game or win a game, and there's that moment of, ooh, I'm happy I did it. I'm the hero. Ooh, yeah, good things. Whereas joy is more of that state of goodness that fills you. It's more of a lasting feeling. It doesn't have a direct cause to it. You can be sitting around and just kind of feel like, I'm in a good spot right now. I am filled with goodness. Things are going well. Then the next one is gratitude, I talked about. So gratitude is the appreciation for what has been, what is, and what can still be. It's really about appreciating the moment, appreciating how things are, be able to look at things that aren't good and be like, yeah, I'm okay with this because this is a learning experience. So those are the definitions to it. Now the question is, in sport, what does it look like? What does it feel like? In sports, happiness is we get that win, we hit that accomplishment, hit that goal, and we're just like, yeah, woo, this is good stuff. Whereas joy is going to be more coming from that deep inner pride and growth. It's a connection with our team. It's being like, I just enjoy being with this group. I'm sure a lot of us out there who might watch this or see this, you've been on a team where it just kind of sucks. You drag your feet going to practice. You drag your feet knowing that you have to do things because it's just not good. But when you have joy, when you feel this deep inner pride and enjoyment with things, you're excited to go practice. Maybe your team has only won one game all year, but because you love your teammates so much, you love your coach and stuff, you love how you're growing as an athlete, you just go to it because it still is a good place for you to be. And you know that there's going to be plenty of opportunities there to be happy. You're going to have the teammates you're going to have the teammate that cracks the right jokes, that's going to push you in the right direction so you're better. You're going to have all these things that stack up, and they're going to create more of a joyous experience. And then the gratitude piece in sport means that you're showing appreciation for what you've learned, for things that's helped you, people that have helped you. You go up to your coach, to your mental performance consultant, and be like, hey, you've helped me a lot to be a better person. Thank you. Or we look at the lessons learned like, man, I hated losing that game. I hated how I performed there, but I learned so much about me by going through this. So you appreciate what has occurred. So once we know how these things look in sport, what they're like, the next question becomes, how do we cultivate them? How do we have more of them? Because if you're just someone who's ever lived life, happiness is better than being sad. Joy is better than being miserable. Gratitude is usually better than being non-gracious. So how do we cultivate more of this so we have more of this goodness in us? Yeah, sometimes we just need good moments. So cultivating happiness is probably the easiest of them, because cultivating happiness is just doing something that makes you happy. You know, like, oh, when I do this, when I'm around this person, when I do these things, I am happier because they're going to push me, because I know I'm going to succeed. I'm going to see myself become more confident off of this. It's also just setting attainable goals. A lot of times we're miserable or we get down on ourselves because we've set such a high standard for ourselves that we're always chasing this. And when we get disappointed that I didn't get there again, why can I not get there? We just beat ourselves down. But when we set goals that we know are attainable, things that we're going to be able cross off our list and check off. It just builds happiness. They're like, oh, I did this thing. Let's celebrate. Yes. And then lastly is surrounding yourself with your supporters. So we all have people in our life that hopefully make us happy, that have the right jokes, that say the right things, that look at us and be like, you're the best, you're the bomb. And they're like, yeah, I am. And you feel happy because they're hyping you up, they're making you feel good. So surround yourself with those people if you want to cultivate more happiness. But understand, just cultivating happiness is not going to make the biggest change. Happiness, as I said, is a fleeting moment. It's more of something that we need as that quick shot in the arm of like, man, I'm down on myself. I've shot poorly so far in this game. I've ran poorly, whatever it is. And I'm kind of down. So what do I need right now to pick myself back up and get remotivated? I need a little shot in the arm of happiness. I need a little juice in me. So you find that person, you set that goal, whatever it is, so you can get that quick hit, knowing that it's not going to last. If you want something that lasts, we have to find states of joy. We have to find this deeper connection that's going to fuel us all the time. So how do we cultivate joy? Well, the first thing to do is to really explore our motivation and our why. Because if you're just doing your sport, if you're doing your activity because you kind of have to do it, because your parents force you to do it, you're already disconnected from it. You're separated from it because you're not doing this thing that you enjoy that makes you happy. You're doing something that your parents make you do. If you're already so disconnected from it, if you're doing it from somebody else, it becomes so much harder to find joy in it. So if you're finding your sport is something that you just don't enjoy, you have to really look at why you're in it and start to make those other connections. If it's something that your parents are making you do, but you are like, I really want to try and make this work. I really want to try and make this work. Well, then you have to find things that are making you happy in the sport, those fleeting moments. Okay, I'm being pushed to do this because my parents want me to do it. But I have pretty cool teammates. They make me happy a lot. They make me laugh. So then maybe my motivation here is I like being around this team. I like being around these people. Okay, so I start focusing on that instead of just trying to please my parents. I'm there because it's like I like these people. And the more I focus on that and the more I keep liking them, the more I'm going to build this sense of joy in me because I'm doing the thing that I'm connected to. The next thing to do is connecting yourself to the people that have a similar mindset. If you're in a sport that's like, I enjoy it, I like being here, it's important to be around people that also enjoy the sport, want to be there. Because if you're around people that are just there to goof off, don't care, are going to be a distraction all the time, what they're going to do is they're going to distract you. They're going to pull you away from it. They're going to just pull you out of this sense of joy into their little dark hole of just, yeah, we're sucking. We don't care. Come on, come do this with us instead. Screw coach, whatever. And you're like, what? So you have to surround yourself with the good people in your life because they're just going to keep feeding off of that. If they enjoy being there, you enjoy being there, you're going to keep building this feeling like, yeah, we both kind of enjoy this. Versus the person that like, I enjoy being here. I don't enjoy being here. Oh. And their joy sucking is going to take away from your feelings. The next is saying those process-based goals. Well, the attainable goals I talked about can be pretty much anything. A process goal is I'm focused on something I don't do well right now, and I want to get better at it. I'm improving at this. And when I'm focusing on how I'm getting better, no matter if I'm winning games, getting points, winning races, whatever it is, if I'm getting better and improving, I can attach to that. And when I hit that goal, it's going to make me happier. And when I'm chasing this goal, I'm going to be more joyful of it because I'm not being demotivated by the fact that like I'm not hitting these other things. As I talk through this, you'll notice that there is overlap with happiness and joy. Not every time that you're feeling joy, you're going to be happy. Not all the time that you're happy, you're going to have joy. But the more you can feed off of them, the better things are going to be. And now the last thing for joy is practicing mindfulness and gratitude. The reason we get out of joy is we start thinking and worry about what's going to happen in the future of like, if I don't do this well in this game, I am going to suck. Or I'm thinking of the past of, oh, I did this terrible, I suck. Whereas mindfulness takes us here and says, I'm in this moment. I just have to do what I do. I am connected to my sport. I'm motivated by it. I enjoy it. I enjoy the people around. So I have to focus on this instead of all the noise in this direction. And then by building more gratitude and saying, like, you in the past, that kind of sucked, but I learned some lessons from you. Yeah. It's like smiling at your enemies and saying, you don't have power over me because I learned from you. And that's a good thing. And the more you do that, the more you're going to have joy because you're not going to have joy sucked from you. So then, speaking of that, how do we build gratitude? Mindfulness existing in the moment. Sitting there and being like, thank God I got up this morning. Or one of the comments I often say to people is, we have people that say glass is half full, glass is half empty. But then there's this moment where you can sit there, it's like, does it matter? Because I have something in the glass. Even if it's only a little bit, I am quenching my thirst just that little bit. And that's something to be gracious for. Then there's things that you can do about journaling about your day. A lot of times we go through our day and we have all this good stuff happen to us, but we get to the end of it and all we can think about is all the things that did not go well. So by sitting down at the end of the day and forcing yourself to write down the things that did go well, the things in practice that you enjoyed, that were happiness moments, that you succeeded at, that's going to build and cultivate more gratitude in your life. Writing thank yous. Gratitude is appreciation. Appreciation is being thankful. What's the easiest way to be more gracious and thankful? Write down how gracious and thankful you are and connect with it, and then give it to people so that they can recognize, like, oh, you're grateful for me? This is awesome. And then their grateful feeling, their feeling of being like, oh, you recognize me, they're going to give that back to you, and it just feeds off each other. And then finally, reward yourself. When you hit goals, when things happen, when you're in these moments of happiness, take a moment to enjoy it. I was famous. I remember this moment where I remember the first team I ever helped win a conference title. And my first thought was not, let's go celebrate this. It was, all right, what do we have to do to prepare for regionals, to prepare for sectionals, to get ourselves to state? And I was just sucking my own gratitude, my own joy out of that moment because I wasn't there. I wasn't with this moment of happiness of like, we just did this thing. Let's enjoy it. So now I try to focus myself in more. I try to be more gracious of when success happens, let's reward it. Let's pop the bottle of champagne. Let's have the candy bar. Let's do these things to pump each other up. And if you do these things, if you build happiness moments and if you give yourselves those quick shots of happiness when you're down, when you're not feeling your best, if you cultivate this environment of joy where you're just there and be like, you know what? Throw your arrows, your slings at me. I can take it. I'm going to keep going forward. If you keep building those gracious moments of like, you kicked my butt, but I learned how to get better from it. If you keep doing those things, what's the final impact? What do you have? You have a more confident athlete. Because an athlete that is happy, is filled with joy, is filled with gratitude, they're not feeling all the stresses that are pulling them down. They don't feel like their confidence being shook when things happen. If you can look at failure and say that failure is a lesson, then why should I be any less confident? It just means I'm getting better because I'm learning this lesson. When you have these things, you have someone that's more connected to their motivation, that has more meaning. They have these moments where it's like, why am I here? Because I enjoy it, because this is fun, because I want to get every little piece out of this. When you have these moments of joy and happiness, you're seizing the day, you're sucking the nectar out of life and your sport and be like, I am getting every bit of this and I have no regret because I'm connected to it. And then you're more resilient because you have so much joy. When people try to knock you down, when life tries to kick your butt, you're able to get up and be like, I can keep moving forward because I like being here. That's all I have for today's episode of Brain Strength. I hope you picked up on something and have better ideas here of how to cultivate joy, happiness, gratitude. And I hope you're willing to take that step that it's okay to be happy. It's okay to have joy. Even when life seems to be knocking you down, when the world seems to be falling apart around you, you can find joy and happiness. But if you need help with that, reach out to us at Your Brain on Track. Follow us, subscribe, leave comments, ask questions. If there's anything I said today that you found offensive or you didn't agree with, I hope you can forgive me. If there's anything in the comments you say that's offensive or attacks, know I'm going to forgive you. But until next time, brain strength out.